You do not pass an E6 Meta product design round just by solving the problem.
Correct.
At Meta, if you haven't broken the rules of the question,
You're getting down level. That's how I look at it. A lot of people who come for product design interviews don't even know how is it different.
Hey, this is Kevin Landucci with Apply Pass. Today on Offertown, we have Kashish Singhal, conductor of over 100 product design rounds at Meta. He's going to teach us the ins and the outs to these product design rounds. The focus will be on staff level candidates. However, all the other levels will get value out of this as well. If you're a software engineer, hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out when we put out new stuff that's geared to help you pass interviews and get better offers. Hope you like it. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the best interviewers that I have ever had the pleasure of hearing their interviews is with us today. He's worked at all the FANG companies except Apple and Netflix. He's a senior engineer. He's interviewed hundreds of engineers, mainly at the staff level. According to my research, he's a top 10% interviewer because of his ability to give feedback. He sees stuff that other people don't see, and he'll tell you exactly what to do about it. He's a wonderful coach and mentor, and he is Kashish Singhal.
Woo! Thank you for those kind words.
If you had to explain who you are, Kash, in like a tweet length, what would you say? Who are you?
The software engineer. That's my profession. But what apart from software engineering, I'd say I'm a chef. I would say a below amateur boxer.
What's maybe a less known cultural or engineering, like philosophical difference that you witnessed at the Facebook, Google, and Amazon?
Facebook is aggressive in launching the product, right? Google is aggressive in engineering standard or engineering quality. Amazon tries to do a balance of both, which makes it hard to get stuff done in time. Like I should not be saying this, but I feel that the eng quality at Meta or the code quality at Meta is one of the lowest that I've seen across these three companies.
If somebody didn't believe you, what would you say to try to convince them and bring them over to your side?
It's a mental thing, right? For the sake of delivering on time, and I have had this in my PRs as well, that in my diffs, that approving to release, which is basically saying, hey, I'll approve this code because you have a deadline or because we have a release. That has never happened to me at Google. That has never happened to me at Amazon.
You are one of the best people that we can talk to about product design interviews at Meta. You have some real insight into how this interview works. And if anybody tries to go look up how this interview works online right now, not going to find a lot of clarity. So let's first of all just start off with like super simple. What is a product design round and what is it not?
Okay. I'm going to give you two answers. One is from a very business type answer, non-tech, and then I'll give you a tech answer. So imagine Facebook has given you the infra that, hey, these are our data centers available. Assume that there is a pipeline and everything. Go solve this problem for me. Let's say the problem is building the ads platform. You want to show ads across multiple Facebook products. So what you're worrying about is interactions with the customer, with the other services like say Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc. You aren't worried about how scale or how I'm going to do cross-center replication, etc. So that's product design in a nutshell. Solve the problem that was asked. Stick to the product. I do not worry about infra-related things. Now, what this means in an interview, 80% of the way it is similar to system design, right? You start off with functional, non-functional calculations, everything, right? The last portion where you do scaling and cross data center and how you're going to launch it globally or how a global user is going to use your product, you don't get into that. Instead, what you do is you do a lot. Your API design is a lot more detailed. Your data modeling is a lot more detailed. Like for example, I want to know the primary key and the partition key, sort key. Your data flow in your high level design is a lot more detailed. Like, the ads manager is going to create my creatives. So creatives is like the ad content. This is my picture, this is my text, this is my headline, this is where it leads to. So the whole combination is called the ad creative. So ads manager is going to have the creative. It's going to give me the entire creative as an object. So, and then my decision engine is going to decide, like, hey, should I show it to Kevin? Like, this ad, is it applicable to Kevin? So what data is flowing between the ads manager and the decision engine is the entire ad data or the creative, right? So that is where you're focusing more on. Are we passing only the creative ID versus the entire creative, right? So does the decision engine go fetch the creative, or does the decision engine is provided the creative? What are the trade-offs there? That's where the product design deep dives more. Technically, how is the product going to work, right? In system design, because of time constraints, sometime I'm like, we skip over the thought process because we have to cover a lot more stuff. Product design that way is a lot more, it allows for more scope of deep dive.
But the deep dive is less topics. System design is more broad.
Yes.
I was reading a few reviews online. Some people said that they couldn't tell the difference between the product design and system design round that they did. How could that be possible?
It depends on the level. It depends on the style of the interviewer, that how much you want to guide.
Right.
In the direction, right? If you, as I said, 80% of the interview is still the same, right? Sometimes in system design interviews, you would be like, hey, I don't really care. This is a nice problem that we have that we're just talking about. Let's skip the scaling and the architecture discussion. Let's use the extra 5 minutes that we have on this discussion itself. So the system design interview ended up being a product design. Heavily is determined by the interviewer's style.
Is the requirements gathering section tending to be longer in a product design round rather than a system design round?
Absolutely same.
How are candidates evaluated in a product design round?
I think the evaluation criteria pretty much remains the same. How well you're exploring the problem. If your solution that you're given works, your technical depth, like how well did you deep dive? Like, hey, you chose SQL, but did you choose SQL because you felt like it, or did you give me a good reason? And finally, communication, right? Are you able to coherently communicate what's in your head, or are you struggling to get your ideas through to me?
I think that's part of the problem. I think part of it is that companies aren't having a different process for these rounds. Yeah. So it could feel pretty similar to a candidate for that reason too. You said this really cool thing to me the other day was you do not pass an E6 meta product design round just by solving the problem.
Correct. You don't.
So what do they have to do?
So I think this is where the responsibilities of an E6 comes in. The scope of an E6 is almost to manage 1 to 2 teams. So if you're just solving the problem, like yes, we spoke about WhatsApp. So if you're building WhatsApp, right? If you just build one-to-one chat, that's not 2 teams work. That is one team work. Probably it's more like a project rather than a product. So that's where E6s come in. They go beyond the scope of the problem that was asked. One thumb rule that I tell my mentees is build platforms. Build a messaging platform that, say, WhatsApp can use, Messenger can use. You've built a platform that allows cross app communication now, and it is also solving the problem of one-to-one messaging. A statement that I use is, don't build a point solution, build a general solution. Right? If you're asked to build WhatsApp, think of it as a chat messenger. If you're asked to build a news feed like Facebook newsfeed or Instagram newsfeed, think of it like newsfeed, right? It can be used for Facebook, it can be used for Instagram threads. So that is how E6s and E7s get evaluated, right?
Right.
If you're able to go beyond what was asked, you built a platform. Now you have carved out work for 2 to 3 teams, right?
Like, certainly you can't do this with all questions, right? I don't know product design rounds as well as I know system design rounds, but there are weird rounds, like design a parking lot.
One thing before I answer the question, all problems can be done product design and system design.
Oh,
right?
yeah, the questions are the same, right? That's part of the confusing part. Totally.
Yeah, the questions are the same, right? So the difference between the two is where are you focusing on, right?
Functional user focus versus
Infrastructure.
scaling architecture focus.
Yeah. So now coming to answer your question, honestly, I haven't seen a problem, like come across a problem which I can't expand. For example, let's take a a very basic parking lot system, right?
Yeah.
E4 or an E5 candidate would talk about building a parking lot, a system for one parking lot, right? And E5 will probably talk about one MLCP, multi-level car park, right? A good E4 will also talk about one multi-level car park. Now imagine a centralized platform like what UK has, like you park on the street, you pay, right, with cameras. Now you've added that. A street is also technically a parking lot.
Mm.
You're just not assigning
Mhm.
a bay number, right? But that is also a extension of a parking lot.
So there's this idea that Dima Korolev has about, when you're above the senior level,
Mm-hmm.
effectively breaking the rules is basically a job requirement. This strikes me as that, where I hear design WhatsApp, but I don't design WhatsApp. I design something that's more applicable to what they would want to see out of me.
Yeah, right.
But in a way, candidates wouldn't necessarily think that if they haven't been given permission, all of them.
Exactly. So that's why a lot of E6 candidates get down leveled, right? I can't help them out during the interview because hey, E6 is supposed to lead the interview. I am just supposed to ask questions like I didn't understand something, or I feel something is wrong. I'm not technically supposed to guide them, right? And I feel bad because I know this guy looks capable, but if I go strictly by the evaluation criteria, if you've not gone beyond the problem scope, you are not at E6 level.
At Meta, if you haven't broken the rules of the question,
You're getting down level. That's how I look at it. I never reject a candidate that way. I always down level them. A lot of people who come for product design interviews don't even know how is it different, right? So they do not know that hey, API design requires more focus.
And you can't tell them that because you can't guide them.
At E6 I can't.
Right.
But at E4, E5 I can nudge them a little bit. Hey, can you get into more details here?
What are the first 1 to 3 most common reasons that you see for down leveling from L6 to L5?
Let me talk with respect to the system design or product architecture rounds. Number one and the biggest reason is not breaking the rules or the boundaries of the problem is one of the biggest reasons. And the challenge there is the candidates don't know that they have to or they're expected to, right? The recruiters don't tell them. I don't know why. Probably the recruiters are not aware or are not supposed to. I think the next reason is, and this happens across the board, is a very specific technical reason. People say, I'm going to use NoSQL database because SQL is not scalable. Right? That's a blanket statement which I hate. And if I hear that statement, I am rejecting the candidate outright, except if it's L4 where I'm willing to have a chat, right? Basically, it shows that they've just read grokking the system design into and a bunch of other uh, courses out there which talks about SQL versus NoSQL and are not thinking about the problem, right? And the next thing that I would say is not leading the discussion enough, looking for guidance from me, right? And I have a very nice statement that I use. If you want guidance, don't go to your interviewer with problems, go to them with solutions, right? If you want to know that, hey, should I do API design or high level design? Hey, I think we should do API design first because XYZ reason, as opposed to high level design. What do you think? So you've shown that, hey, you're taking the leadership here, you're taking charge, but you're also willing to consider what I have in mind.
I'm 80% sure this way, but I just want to check with you.
Yeah, like, and when I tell candidates, like, hey, do take it in a direction where you are strong, right? Some people kind of suck at data modeling. So I would say that, hey, do your API design, do your high level design for a majority of your time, because so that you show your strengths. If you're weak at data modeling or you're not able to make the decision between SQL, NoSQL, give it less time, right? Because at this level, the interviewers are skilled too, right? So they will be able to identify that you're weak at that very fast. So you want to minimize that or opportunity, right? And at the same time showcase what you're good at.
What are the most common mistakes in product design rounds?
One of the most common mistakes, and I've seen this at all across the levels, is not giving the response to the API. So they'll be like, oh, API slash v1 whatever get user ID equal to xyz. That's my get API. What is the response? Nobody knows. They don't talk about it. Success, failure, and a lot of things that people miss, because in a product architecture interview, API is very important, is the various business use case failures. For example, again, let's use WhatsApp. I'm trying to message you, but you've blocked me. But my phone doesn't know that yet. My local device doesn't know that yet. So when I'm trying to initiate a message with you, the server is going to respond that the user has blocked you. So what is that? So that's a business failure, right? So when I asked the candidates that, hey, what are some failure scenarios? They're like, oh, your network is down, server is down. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some business use case failures. I'm unable to message you because you have blocked me. That's a classic business use case. How does the client handle it? Right? These business, again, always the product architecture interview is always about business use cases or product use cases.
Do you think that L5 candidates and L6 candidates fail, not get down leveled, fail product design rounds for the same reasons?
Actually, no, because I sometimes nudge them that, hey, what is the API response? And they give me a response, a decent response, not always like a very well thought out response. Very, very, very few candidates, I would say less than 1% or less than 5% are able to identify these business use case failures or product failures, right? Product edge cases. So then initially I should fail them, but then I started realizing that it is far too niche a skill to be able to think of these use cases. Right? So I was like, is this heading into the product manager kind of a role? And that is when I kind of slightly lowered my expectation when it came to these product failures.
What about another kind of little, maybe less known trick? And I just want like a little thing, in your opinion, that helps people get over the bar.
So the entire tech industry is groveling about data driven decisions.
Yeah.
Do that in the interview, right? That
Ooh,
1 minute of your back of the envelope calculations, use those numbers to make decisions. Oh, we're only dealing with 100 requests per second, so I need multiple servers for redundancy, etc., but I don't really need a huge server farm. I don't have to worry about things that you will deal with like when you're dealing with a million QPS, right? So use the data that you calculate.
This game is called The Deck of Hiring Hootenanny, and it is a card game. What is the zaniest thing you've seen a candidate say or do in an interview?
One behavioral interview, the guy was like, I asked him a very standard question that, hey, give me a reason where you like strongly disagreed with your manager or your direct supervisor. He's like, oh, that dick. And then he went about his story. I'm like, don't say that.
Quick piece of feedback: don't insult the companies that you used to work for. I mean, negativity in a behavioral round is like one of the most common reasons for rejection.
I think, yeah, I get that, but if I feel that's far too politically correct, right?
You think so?
Yeah, if everything is fine with your current company, or if you're not unhappy with your current company, why are you leaving?
Right. Yeah.
Right? There has to be something wrong.
Because you want something new. You've took on this challenge. You've learned a lot, and then now you're ready for your next adventure.
That's the textbook answer.
Yeah, but that's the safest answer.
Right, but you also have to understand that interviewers have also been interviewees, so they know they've read this answer, so it feels very ingenuine.
There's a super thin line between being too negative and being like honest with a little bit of non-positivity sprinkled in. Like, you know what? I don't love our engineering processes. I'm looking to get into a place that has more set in stone engineering processes and more engineers that I could learn from. That might be more honest if it's true for this company that they have better engineering processes.
Exactly. Like, I want to move from Meta to Google. and I'm ready for my next adventure. I'm like, what new adventure are you going to get from Meta to Google, or the other way around?
Yeah,
So
these are the same adventure. Right?
it's a thing that I don't agree with, but then I let my mentees say the safe answer. It's the thing that the interviewer wants to hear. Let them hear.
What's the craziest story you've heard about onboarding?
So are you aware of the Meta onboarding process?
It's that weird you join without a team thing.
Yeah, now it's changed, but previously it used to be without a team and everything. A guy joined, I think December or something. So and I joined, I think, in the month of July, and he was still hunting for teams. Almost 7 to 8 months, he was hunting for teams.
Is he just like making up his own projects?
So you have a bootcamp mentor who assigns you work from multiple different teams. You pick up low-hanging fruits which nobody wants to do in the team and then get your work done.
Right. I thought it was like a Silicon Valley situation, the TV show, when those guys got casted out and they still worked there. They made a lot of money, but they didn't have anything to do. I was picturing that, but totally not it. Okay, cool.
No, you're not sitting there on the terrace with a big can of cola.
This is called the Lord of Hiring. Okay. So fill in the blank game. Okay. So you have been awarded the Lord of Hiring. First question. Dear Lord of Hiring, we heard that you improved the tech industry. What did you decide to do to improve the tech industry?
Remote lead code interviews.
Blank has been banished from engineering hiring.
Take home assignments.
Nice. Take too much time.
No,
Two more.
assignments are pointless. Rather bring them here, give them, because I've done take home assignments myself. I've taken help, and I've googled the entire assignment, downloaded it, made a few changes, renamed the classes, and sent them.
They did not notice?
No,
The company didn't notice?
No. Downloaded the answer from someone's GitHub repo. Who's going to find out?
I don't know. I'm just saying. I wanted to know if it worked.
Nobody looks at that carefully. So if you really want to have them, and I think there's this company in India called Flipkart which does this. They bring you in, they give you around 2.5 hours, and they give you a problem statement. They're like, use the internet whatever you want and build us a product, right? You don't have to connect any databases or anything. Just use an in-memory whatever map or something and build us this, right? And then you present your solution to an engineer. That's an amazing interview round.
Okay, next question. Interviewers, from now on, you will blank.
Choose your own questions.
Candidates, from now on, you will blank.
Actually, spend a day at the company if you're in the offer stage. Yeah, like sure, there is always at the bigger companies especially, there is a lot of collective good feedback, right? But what if your manager is not someone you're able to connect with, or what if your team is not somebody you're able to connect with? I know on that day everybody's going to be at their best behavior, nobody's going to be an asshole to you, but it's better than what we have today,
right? And you'll get more data points just by being there. I remember somebody that came into an all hands meeting that the company, I was working in a small startup at the time, and I thought that was really smart because as a negotiation coach, you can tell a lot by people's body language, especially the people that aren't the ones talking. So like if I wanted to get a read on a team or an org or a company, if I just went to a meeting and watched the people that weren't talking, I could learn a lot about the culture. So we got the rapid fire round, and then we'll have you do the sign off. What is something that you believe about, whether you call it interviewing or hiring, but you don't have the data to prove?
It's a broken process. It
Absolutely.
doesn't. The interviewing process does not reflect the skill of the candidate.
Absolutely.
To perform at the job. It only reflects on how well they can clear the interviews.
Kashish, what is an unconventional opinion that you feel strongly about, aka what hill would you die on?
That software engineering is not easy. There is a lot of thing that coding is easy, and you don't really need an engineering degree or whatever. You learn yourself. Software engineering is not easy. It's a very stressful job, especially right now. Right, probably in the golden period a few years ago, it was not as stressful, but right now, due to the economic turmoil, it is a very stressful job. So it's not for everyone. It's shiny on the outside because of the money, but remember, if it's expensive, it's got caveats, right?
This is the point of the show where, well, the ritual here is that the guest does the sign off. So you don't have to thank me. Please don't thank me. Don't thank the show. Just leave the viewers with one more idea, and then we'll wave goodbye.
Behavioral interviews, don't go to them unprepared. Prepare answers for them beforehand. Trust me, you will notice the difference. Treat behavioral interviews as one of the most important interviews, especially at senior and above levels. Right? I hope you guys had fun and learned something. Bye bye.